charges against you? Did you hurt your girlfriend?
It's looking rough for Quinshon Judkins. The NFL star was just hit with a heavy sentence after being found guilty of assaulting his girlfriend. According to reports, the outcome completely broke him, and it was something even his lawyer didn't see coming. So what exactly happened? And is this the end for him? Let's break it down. The incident that changed everything. The news broke like thunder on a summer morning in July 2025. Quinshon Judkins, the Cleveland Browns' prized second-round draft pick, the national championship hero who was supposed to resurrect their running game, found himself in handcuffs in a Florida jail cell. It all began at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, where Judkins and his on-again, off-again girlfriend had just landed after what was supposed to be a friendly trip to South Florida.
And the victim basically said she and Judkins flew into Fort Lauderdale on Monday, July 7th.
What started as a routine airport pickup would quickly spiral into a nightmare that would haunt both victims forever. According to the police report that would later seal Judkins' fate, the trouble began at baggage claim. The woman had gone to use the restroom, and when she returned, she found Judkins visibly agitated and frustrated.
She went in, used the restroom. When she came out of the restroom, she went to baggage claim and found Quinshon noticeably frustrated. Quinshon allegedly said, "Oh wow, I can't believe you, and I'm so done with you."
The victim would later tell police that she had absolutely no idea why Judkins was saying these things to her. She was confused, trying to understand what had triggered his sudden change in demeanor. But this was just the beginning of what would become a terrifying ordeal that would last for hours and leave physical and emotional scars that would never fully heal. As they got into their rental car, the situation deteriorated rapidly. According to the arrest affidavit, Judkins had received text messages from family members that had clearly upset him. The woman, trying to be understanding and supportive, attempted to explain that whatever was in those messages wasn't true, that they were being taken out of context.
And then she got into the rental car and said that she noticed Quinshon was very frustrated after he had read text messages from family members.
But Judkins wasn't listening. His anger was building, and the woman, who suffered from anxiety, began to stutter as she desperately tried to calm him down and explain the situation. That's when the unthinkable happened, the moment that would forever change both their lives and end Judkins' promising NFL career before it even began.
She was trying to explain herself, and then Quinshon punched her in the mouth-chin area with a closed fist.
The brutality of that moment cannot be overstated. Here was a 6-foot, 221-pound elite athlete, a man at the peak of physical condition, using his fists against someone who posed no threat to him whatsoever. The officer who later took the report noted that the victim still had visible bruising on her chin area when she came to make the report 5 days later.
The officer noted she still had the visible bruising on her chin area when she came to make the report.
But the horror didn't end there. The violence was just beginning, and what followed would show a pattern of escalating brutality that painted a picture of a man completely out of control. After the first attack, Judkins pulled over the vehicle, and the traumatized woman got out to call his mother, though she didn't tell her what had just happened.
She then goes on to say Quinshon pulled over at one point. She got out of the car and called Quinshon's mom. Now, she didn't tell Quinshon's mom what had just happened, that he just punched her in the face.
When she got back in the car, perhaps hoping that the brief break had allowed Judkins to calm down, she made the decision to sit in the back seat, a telling detail that speaks to her fear and her desperate attempt to put some distance between herself and her attacker. But Judkins wasn't done. The arguing continued, with the woman still trying to explain that the text messages he had read were taken out of context.
She said the arguing continued and was trying to explain to him that the texts he read were taken out of context.
That's when Judkins committed what may have been the most shocking act of violence in this entire horrific sequence. While he was driving, putting not just his victim but potentially innocent bystanders at risk, he turned around and struck the woman multiple times in her left arm and thigh.
She then says he turned around while he was driving and struck her additional times in the left arm and thigh.
The police report documents that the victim had visible bruising on her left arm and thigh that was still apparent days later, and she had taken photographs of these injuries that would later become crucial evidence in the case against Judkins.
The officer notes she did still have visible bruising on her left arm and thigh. She also had pictures of these bruises as well.
As the violence escalated, the woman began to fight back, kicking in self-defense as Judkins continued his assault. This led him to pull over into a parking lot where she jumped out of the car again. But somehow, whether out of fear, shock, or misguided hope that he would stop, she got back into the vehicle one more time.
She also said the second time he started hitting her, she began kicking to defend herself. So Quinshon pulled over into a parking lot. She jumped out of the car again, but ultimately got back in the vehicle another time and said, "Don't touch me again."
Perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of this entire ordeal is what the victim told police when they asked her why she didn't call 911 immediately. Her answer reveals the complex dynamics at play and the way that power power, fame, and perceived potential can sometimes shield abusers from immediate consequences.
They asked her, why didn't you call 911? She said she felt bad due to the recent success in the career of Quinshon.
This detail is particularly chilling because it shows how Judkins' status as a rising NFL star initially protected him from facing immediate consequences for his actions. The victim was more concerned about potentially damaging his career than she was about seeking help for her own injuries and trauma. It wasn't until 5 days later, after speaking with family and friends who convinced her that something needed to be done, that she finally contacted police.
The victim said that she ultimately decided to contact the police after she spoke with family and friends about the situation and realized something needed to be done.
The relationship between Judkins and his victim adds another layer of complexity to this tragic story. According to court records, they had lived together between May 2024 and December 2024, but were not in a relationship between December 2024 and June 2025.
So the victim and Judkins lived together between May 2024 and December 2024, but they were not in a relationship between December 2024 and June 2025. According to this, they have rekindled their relationship.
When the victim finally did report the assault to Fort Lauderdale police on July 12, 2025, officers responded to the area near 1500 W Cypress Creek Road regarding what they classified as a delayed battery. After speaking with the victim and conducting their preliminary investigation, they determined that a battery had indeed occurred. On July 13, 2025, Fort Lauderdale police made contact with Quinshon Judkins and placed him into custody. He was transported to Broward County Main Jail and charged with touch or strike / battery / domestic violence, a misdemeanor under Florida law. During his first court appearance on July 14, 2025, a Broward County judge found probable cause for the charges. The judge set Judkins' bond at $2,500 and imposed strict conditions, including no contact with the alleged victim and no access to firearms. Judkins posted his $2,500 bond and was released from Broward County Main Jail on the afternoon of July 14, 2025. As he walked out of the jail, reporters attempted to question him about the charges and whether he had hurt his girlfriend.
Do you have any comment to the charges against you? Did you hurt your girlfriend?
But Judkins remained silent, refusing to answer any questions as he made his way to a waiting vehicle. His silence spoke volumes. Here was a young man who had always been articulate and confident in front of cameras, suddenly unable or unwilling to defend himself against the most serious accusations he had ever faced. As of July 18, 2025, the case remains pending trial, with no specific trial date announced. The next likely step in the legal process would be an arraignment where Judkins would enter a plea, typically scheduled within a few weeks in Broward County. Legal implication and consequences. The legal consequences facing Judkins are severe and multifaceted, representing just the beginning of what promises to be a long and painful reckoning. Under Florida law, domestic violence battery is classified as a first-degree misdemeanor for first-time offenders, carrying potential penalties that could fundamentally alter the trajectory of his life. If found guilty, Judkins could face up to 1 year in jail, though as a first-time offender, he might receive probation instead of incarceration. The financial penalties could include fines up to $1,000, but perhaps more significantly, he would be required to complete a mandatory 26-week batterer's intervention program, a constant reminder of his actions that would extend far beyond any jail sentence. The judge has already imposed a restraining order requiring no contact with the alleged victim and no access to firearms, conditions that will remain in place regardless of the ultimate outcome of his case. These restrictions serve as a daily reminder of how quickly a life of privilege and promise can transform into one of limitation and shame. But the legal consequences, significant as they are, pale in comparison to what awaits Judkins from the National Football League. The NFL's personal conduct policy, revised in 2014 following high-profile domestic violence cases, establishes a baseline suspension of 6 games without pay for first-time offenses involving domestic violence with physical force.
So, I've mentioned the possibility of Judkins being placed on paid leave.
The parallels to recent Browns history are both striking and ominous. Last season, Browns defensive tackle Mike Hall Jr., also a second-round pick from Ohio State, received a 5-game suspension for his domestic violence arrest. The similarity is so precise, it's almost eerie. 2 consecutive years, 2 second-round picks from the same school, both facing domestic violence charges.
That happened last year to Brown's second-round pick from Ohio State, Mike Hall.
The NFL's investigation process operates independently of the legal system, meaning Judkins could face league discipline even if criminal charges are ultimately dropped or if he's found not guilty in court. The league has made it clear that they will not tolerate domestic violence, and the evidence in the police report, including photographs of visible bruising, provides them with substantial grounds for action.
And I think there's a pretty good chance that Judkins is going to get placed on paid leave.
Perhaps most significantly for Judkins' immediate future, he hasn't even signed his rookie contract yet, a detail that adds another layer of complexity to his situation. The Browns could potentially delay contract negotiations indefinitely, leaving him in limbo without the financial security that typically comes with being a second-round draft pick.
And some have said, well, how can they put him on paid leave if he hasn't signed his contract? And that's an excellent point.
For the Cleveland Browns organization, Judkins' arrest represents a catastrophic failure on multiple levels. This was supposed to be their answer to a running game that had struggled mightily in recent seasons. The Browns drafted Judkins with the specific hope that he could become the team's lead running back, after Nick Chubb signed with the Houston Texans.
It's one thing if there are red flags and you take a chance on a guy and this ends up backfiring on you. That's not the case here at all.
The most frustrating aspect for the Browns is that there were apparently no warning signs. According to reports, there were no red flags on Judkins during the draft process. He went through extensive vetting. Everyone vouched for him, and then this happened.
There were no red flags on this individual. Judkins went through the process. Everyone vouched for him. He was vetted. And you get to this process and then this happens.
The impact on Cleveland's offensive strategy cannot be overstated. Judkins was expected to be the workhorse of their running back committee, potentially handling about half of their carries. His absence, whether temporary due to suspension or permanent due to release, forces the team to completely reimagine their ground attack.
Yeah, I'm with you. I fully expected him to be the workhorse of this committee.
Without Judkins, the Browns' running back depth chart looks significantly weaker. Jerome Ford, who led the team with just 565 rushing yards in 2024, lacks the explosiveness to be a true feature back. The team also drafted Dylan Sampson in the 4th round, but he's not viewed as a workhorse type runner.
Now we don't know to what degree because we don't know what the suspension will be, but this draws, this puts the onus on Dylan Sampson, on Jerome Ford, and possibly a third back that hasn't even emerged yet.
The timing of Judkins' arrest couldn't have been worse for Cleveland. Training camp was scheduled to begin on July 18, 2025, with rookies reporting first. Instead of focusing on installing their offensive system and building chemistry between players, the Browns find themselves dealing with a public relations nightmare and a gaping hole in their backfield.
So let's turn the attention to football. He was going to be a focal point of the running attack, at least I think so. What do you do now?
The broader implications extend beyond just the running game. The Browns were hoping that a strong ground attack would help ease the pressure on their quarterback situation, which remains unsettled heading into the season. Without a reliable running game, they may be forced to rely more heavily on the passing attack, potentially exposing weaknesses in their quarterback play.
For the Browns right now, man, it's probably soul searching time, regardless of what happened here and what's to come with any potential suspensions or findings.
The financial implications for the Browns are also significant. They used the 36th overall pick on Judkins, a valuable asset that was likely a key component in their draft day trades. That pick, which could have been used on a player who would actually contribute to their team, now represents a massive sunk cost.
Not only now do we once again have to discuss a Browns player being arrested for violence against a woman, but this dude was also in the middle of a contract holdout situation where he actually wanted a fully guaranteed deal.
Perhaps most damaging of all is the pattern this represents. This marks the 3rd straight year that the Browns have had a draft choice involved in legal troubles, including linebacker Devin Bush, who was also arrested on domestic violence charges.
Case, I get what the caller's saying, but it's the 3rd straight year where you've had a draft choice, and then you also had Devin Bush. We found out after the fact, so it's 4 in 3 years.
The pattern raises serious questions about the Browns' evaluation process and organizational culture. How does a team repeatedly find itself in these situations? What are they missing in their character assessments? These are questions that will haunt the organization as they try to move forward. Shattered dreams of a star. To truly understand the magnitude of Quinshon Judkins' fall from grace, we must first appreciate the extraordinary heights from which he tumbled. This wasn't just any promising young athlete whose career was derailed by poor choices. This was a man who had achieved virtually everything possible in football, whose success story had inspired countless others, and whose future seemed absolutely limitless just months before his arrest. Born on October 29, 2003, in Montgomery, Alabama, Quinshon A. Judkins seemed destined for greatness from an early age. He grew up in Pike Road, Alabama, where he would first show showcased the talent and determination that would eventually take him to the pinnacle of college football. But his story isn't just about athletic ability. It's about a young man who understood the value of hard work, community engagement, and using his platform to lift others up. During his high school career at Pike Road High School, Judkins was nothing short of spectacular. He led his team to an Alabama 5A state championship in 2021, earning recognition as the game's MVP. Over his high school career, he amassed an incredible 4,220 rushing yards and 67 touchdowns, with 470 receiving yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. These weren't just impressive numbers on a stat sheet. They represented a young man who dominated every level of competition he faced. He was rated a 3-star recruit by Rivals, ranked number 18 overall in Alabama, and number 28 among running backs nationally. Multiple major programs came calling, including Auburn and Notre Dame, but Judkins chose the University of Mississippi, a decision that would launch him into the national spotlight.
I'm from Alabama.
Alabama.
Originally, yeah, I'm from Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay.
And I went to high school in Pike Road.
At Ole Miss, Judkins didn't just meet expectations, he shattered them in ways that rewrote the record books. As a freshman in 2022, he set school records with 1,567 rushing yards and 16 rushing touchdowns, adding 15 receptions for 132 yards and 1 touchdown. These weren't just good numbers for a freshman, they were elite numbers by any standard, earning him SEC Co-Freshman of the Week honors and ultimately SEC Freshman of the Year. His sophomore year in 2023 saw him continue his dominance with 1,158 yards and 15 touchdowns, maintaining his status as an all-SEC performer. Over 2 seasons at Ole Miss, he totaled 2,725 rushing yards and 31 touchdowns, establishing himself as one of the SEC's most feared runners and one of the most productive backs in conference history. But Judkins wasn't content with individual success. He had bigger dreams, championship aspirations that would lead him to make one of the most significant decisions of his college career.
Really good. Everything went by really fast. Throughout the whole process, you just meet so many people.
On January 4th, 2024, Judkins entered the transfer portal, and just 4 days later, he committed to Ohio State as the top-rated transfer running back in the country. His reasoning was simple and powerful. In simple terms, I want to win a national championship. You want to come where there are the best players, the best fan base on the national level of college football. Everybody here wants to win. Everybody here is going to push you to be your best self. This wasn't just a young man chasing individual glory. This was someone who understood that true greatness comes from team success, from achieving something bigger than yourself. And in 2024, that vision would become reality in the most spectacular fashion imaginable. The 2024 season at Ohio State would prove to be the crowning achievement of Judkins' football career. He led the team with 1,060 rushing yards and tied for the team lead with 16 touchdowns, including 14 rushing and 2 receiving. But statistics alone don't tell the story of what made this season so special.
How great was it to win the national championship?
It's awesome, bro. Awesome. I think, when I came there to win a national championship, but to actually get to see the confetti fall down and everybody screaming. And
Judkins topped 100 yards rushing 3 times during the season, including a crucial 100-yard performance in the national championship game against Notre Dame. In that championship game, he scored 3 touchdowns, helping lead Ohio State to their first title since 2014. The image of him celebrating as confetti fell around him would become iconic, a young man who had achieved everything he had dreamed of.
What's been the best advice that you've gotten here so far?
I think just more so on time management and, the things that got you up until this point, don't change anything. Just continue to be consistent and, be a team guy.
But what made Judkins special wasn't just his performance in big games, it was his character, his commitment to excellence, and his understanding of what it meant to be part of something bigger than himself. Sharing carries with teammate Tre'Veyon Henderson kept both players fresh throughout the long season, demonstrating Judkins' willingness to put team success ahead of individual statistics. His coach at Ohio State, Carlos Lachlan, saw something special in Judkins that went beyond just athletic ability. Lachlan praised his passion, noting, "They got a great kid that has a lot of passion for the game," and described him as effective in closing out games like Mariano Rivera, comparing him to one of the greatest closers in baseball history. The foundation for Judkins' success was built long before he ever stepped foot on a college campus. His parents, Quincy and Tiva Judkins, emphasized academics and determination, with all siblings holding degrees and careers. He even considered Ivy League schools like Yale and Princeton for academic scholarships alongside his football offers, reflecting a balanced approach to his future.
That's just how I was raised. It's part of my upbringing,
Perhaps most importantly, Judkins understood the responsibility that came came with his success. His return to Pike Road High School for spring practice in 2024, where he coached running backs and donated $10,000 to the football program, exemplified his commitment to giving back. His mother, Tava, spoke proudly of his humility. "I was once the parent watching him on this very field, sweating his heart out for his team. To see that child be able to come back and be able to coach the team and give back to his community makes me very proud."
Everything.
It could be anything.
It doesn't matter, bro. Like basketball, we can play golf. It don't matter. I'm trying to win. So
Video games or card games or anything?
whatever you want to play at, I'm gonna win. That's my mindset, my goal.
On January 24th, 2025, Judkins declared for the NFL draft, marking the next step in what seemed like an inevitable march toward professional stardom. His college career had been nothing short of phenomenal. Over 3 seasons at Ole Miss and Ohio State, he had accumulated over 3,785 rushing yards and 47 touchdowns while winning a national championship. At the 2025 NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis, Judkins showcased the athletic ability that had made him so successful. He recorded an 11-foot broad jump, a 38.5-inch vertical, and a 4.48-second 40-yard dash. His relative athletic score was an excellent 9.87 out of 10, placing him among the elite athletes at the Combine.
Oh, definitely. I felt like for myself, when I look back at my body and after the season, how I took care of myself, how I managed my schedule and my routine for every single day throughout the season.
Scouting reports consistently praised his patient running style, vision, and ability to find daylight through defenses. Walter Football noted, "If teams were drafting purely on best football player and skill set, Judkins would be a first-round pick. However, because teams downgrade drafting running backs early in the draft, Judkins might slide some and end up being a second-round pick. When the Cleveland Browns selected him with the 36th overall pick in the second round of the 2025 NFL Draft, it seemed like the perfect match. The Browns needed a powerful, versatile running back to anchor their offense, and Judkins represented everything they were looking for."
What's this been like for you the last 24 hours?
Man, such a surreal experience, getting to enjoy it with my family, my loved ones, the people that got me up until this point. And like you said, have a Hall of Famer call my name and tell me where I'm going to be for, my career. So just like I said, surreal and just taking it all in.
Assistant General Manager Glenn Cook explained the team's thinking. "He brings the brand of football that we want. AFC North back, exceptionally strong, physical, tough, productive, 3-down guy." The Browns saw Quinshon Judkins as a potential star who would revolutionize their gameplay, and now all they can hope is that Judkins resolves his legal issues and still becomes the impact player they believed they were drafting. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.